Good afternoon and welcome. Today is September 2nd. It is 5 p.m. and we are in the Bosch-Freilich meeting room at Mandan City Hall. Mr. Neubauer, could you please take the roll?
Commissioners Heinchan.
Here.
Braun.
Yes.
Rohr.
Here.
Schoberg.
Yes.
Mayor Freilich.
Here. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remove all headgear. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we'll start off the meeting with announcements. First on the docket is Shane O'Keefe, Director of Public Works.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Well, it's that time again. Fall is here. Free Fall Landfill Week will run from September 15th to the 20th from 8 a.m. to 8:45 daily at the Mandan City Landfill. Residents can dispose of furniture, clean appliances at no cost with proof of residency. Tire fees will still apply, and not accepted items are construction material, hazardous waste, or any liquids. If it is in a paint can, it must be dried to remove it or get rid of it. So, free Fall Landfill Week coming up, guys. Don't forget. Can't believe it's here already.
Shane, what were those hours again?
8 a.m. to 4:45 p.m.
Okay. Any other questions for Shane? Nope. Thank you. Next up is Jarek with our construction update.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. On my screen here, I have some project updates from around town. On Memorial Highway, restoration of 21st Street and 19th Street are complete. Both streets are open and seeding will be completed this week. 60-inch storm sewer main is being installed east-west along the highway corridor, and it is currently installed from 46th Avenue Southeast to 43rd. New 6-inch water service and sanitary sewers lines continue to be installed along the south side of the highway. And asphalt removal is being completed at 46th Memorial intersection. New water main will be installed through this intersection this week. And concrete paving on the south side will begin once utilities are installed and the road subgrade is prepped. And that would likely begin in the second half of September. For our water treatment plant phase 3 optimization project, we removed CO2 tank slab forms and began grading aggregate for the concrete pad around the groundwater lift station. We are planning for sheet pile installation the week of September 8th, and we are continuing to do driveway replacement work, and electrical work is to begin on the groundwater lift station. For our Collins Avenue Reservoir, we began concrete placements for wall and dome panels and placed concrete for the head wall and tank foundation slab. Completed rebar for tank foundation slab and head wall, and concrete placements for wall and dome panels will continue. I do have a picture here of the slab pour. I think it was about halfway through. For our 2025 reconstruction project, this is around Monty Drive. Underground work is about 70% complete, and the contractor is prioritizing getting 14th Street paved from 6th to Sunset Drive. Concrete repairs and other restoration will continue all the way up until freeze up. So contractor is going to be working to do as much as they can prior to the winter close or shutdown. Also on this project, we did grab a piece of cast iron water main for the public's enjoyment. Thought we could show it off if you could maybe, there we go. That is the cast iron pipe that we removed from underneath Monty Drive or around Monty Drive. Here I was talking about cast iron replacements a lot. Mandan proper, the Sweetbriar area. A lot of our future reconstruction projects include the replacement of cast iron water mains, and hopefully that visual gives people kind of a good reference of why we're doing some of those things. For our 2024 reconstruction project, this also included cast iron water main replacement. All underground work is complete. Paving will be complete this week. Concrete repairs, landscaping, and other punch list items will continue into the fall, with the chip seal to be completed early next summer. And then the last one I have on here is the MDU Michael's gas main replacement project. This isn't a city project, but it is a project that we get a lot of questions on. I believe this is the second construction season of what will end up being a 7-year effort. Underground crews complete the replacement of underground pipe around the community, and then they usually backfill and move on to the next underground pipe replacement location. And then they are followed by either concrete or asphalt crews that are that then restore the surface. The gap between the underground crew and the above ground crew is typically 1 to 2 weeks at this stage in the project. That gap was larger earlier in the summer or earlier in the construction season when it was when the underground crews could get going and the above ground crews weren't quite ready yet. Northern Improvement was to move into town today to start on asphalt restoration around the area that has yet to be complete. So they should be active on this project in the area right now. That's the update that I have. If you have any other specific questions, I can sure try and answer them.
Mayor Judge, as a matter of curiosity, I noticed that on the inner city, you go east of Memorial Highway, then you go to the north there along, there's a lot of water in that ditch, and then it goes crossed over to where the asphalt place is that takes them out to the railroad construction. There's a lot of water through there. Is that where they're draining Memorial Highway?
Mayor Commissioner Rohr, I think that there's a lot of natural drainage that goes in that direction, and that might be where they're pumping some of their water out of the Memorial Highway corridor, but I'm not entirely sure if that's intentional or not.
I just noticed when I've been driving through that area, and I couldn't figure out where the water was coming from.
That's a good note. I can find that answer for you.
It's not important, but it's
Yeah.
curiosity.
Yep.
So Jarek, do you have any other updates on the Memorial Highway? Are they bringing in extra crews, or what are they doing?
Yes. So I know that DOT management had a meeting with Reedy recently, and I know that Reedy had talked about bringing in extra underground crews, as well as planning to bring in extra concrete crews once that time comes. So Reedy's planning on hitting it hard, and they still intend to complete the deadline of having mainline paving done prior to the winter shutdown. So that's still the schedule that they're aiming for, and they are. I think that the DOT and Reedy are going to be working more closely together to manage that schedule.
When you say mainline paving, are you referring to asphalt or concrete?
We're referring to the final concrete surface. If they don't succeed getting mainline concrete paving done prior to the winter shutdown, I believe that Reedy would be putting down temporary asphalt surface to get through the winter, if that were the case. But shooting for the mainline concrete paving to be completed.
And the Monty Drive paving, did you mention that?
I know that the contractor is only contractually obligated to get first lift of asphalt down before the winter shutdown. But I do know that the contractor is aiming to have as much of it completely done prior to shutdown this season. And
Sidewalks,
they're moving
gutter?
quick. And then maybe I should say, I guess I shouldn't say sidewalks and curb and gutter. I think when those conversations were happening, they were talking about driving surfaces, but I can double check to make sure we're on the same page about some of those accessory items.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
That's it. Thanks, Jarek. Now we move on to the public comment section of the agenda. Mr. Neubauer, are there any submissions? Okay. We will move on to approval of the agenda. You've had a chance to look over the agenda. Somebody like to make a motion to approve it?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second. Motion by Commissioner Heinchan, a second by Commissioner Schoberg. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Commissioners Braun.
Yes.
Rohr.
Yes.
Schoberg.
Yes.
Heinchan.
Yes.
Mayor Freilich.
Yes. On to agenda item F, the minutes. Consider approval of the August 19th, 2025 Board of City Commission meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the August 19th, 2025 Board of City Commission meeting as presented.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Schoberg, second by Commissioner Rohr. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Commissioners Rohr,
Yes.
Schoberg,
Yes.
Heinchan.
Yes.
Braun. Yes. Mayor Freilich.
Yes. There are no public hearings tonight and there are no bids, so we will move on to the consent agenda. Are there any items that you would like removed? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make that motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Schoberg, second by Commissioner Heinchan. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Commissioners Schoberg,
Yes.
Heinchan.
Yes.
Braun. Yes. Rohr.
Yes.
Mayor Freilich.
Yes. There is no old business, so we'll move on to new business. And first on the agenda for new business is Brady Martz. Mindy Piatz from Brady Martz to present the results of the 2024 audit.
All right, good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I'm Mindy Piatz, a shareholder with Brady Martz, and we performed the audit for the City of Mandan, and I'm going to go over those results with you tonight. So first we'll go over our overall reports and opinions that we express on the financials. Next we'll review some financial statement highlights, and then end with some items that we are required to communicate by our professional standards. So the first item, overall, the objective of an audit is to provide an opinion on the financials as to whether they're free of material misstatement in accordance with GAAP. We do have audit guidelines that we have to follow as part of performing the audit, and those are listed on the screen. For the city's audit, for the financial statements, we are expressing an unmodified opinion. This is the highest level of assurance that we can provide on the financial statements, meaning that the financial statements materially conform to GAAP. Additionally, we also issue another report on internal control and compliance, and that is for performing our audit in accordance with government auditing standards. Again, that's an unmodified opinion and the highest level of assurance that we can provide. I would note that within that report, there were two findings noted. The first one was for segregation of duties at the airport, as the airport is consolidated and rolled up into the city's audit. And then the second finding was for the auditors preparing the financial statements. Both of these findings are repeat findings from last year. The last report that we issue is for performing the audit in accordance with uniform guidance. So this is a compliance audit testing the federal compliance, the city's compliance with the federal grants that they receive. The two programs that we tested this year were the coronavirus state and local recovery funds, and then the highway planning and construction fund. And based on our testing of those two grants, we found that the city was in compliance with the federal requirements by those grants. And so again, it's an unmodified opinion on this report, which is a clean opinion. Next, I'll move on to some financial statement highlights for the city. The first one is looking at the trend in net position. So net position is the city's equity or residual equity that they would have. It's referred to as net position for governments, but just looking at the trend year over year for the city. So you can see going back to 2019, it's been steadily growing. As of 12/31/24, which was the fiscal year that we conducted the audit for, ending net position was $270 million. This last year, it increased $25 million, or about 9.8% from 2023. Next, looking at revenues by type for the city, you can see kind of where the bulk of the money is coming from. The largest one is 40% is coming from capital grants and contributions. That equated to about $27.5 million for the fiscal year 2024. $23 million of that is special assessments for public works improvements this last year. The next largest item is charges for services at 23%. That equates to about $16 million. And the bulk of that, about $13.3 million, is coming from the water, sewer, and street and utility billing. And then the third largest revenue for the city is property taxes. That equated to 12%, or approximately $7.9 million for 2024. Next, looking at total expenses by type. Total expenses for the city equated to $42.8 million this last fiscal year. The largest being public works at 23%, or $9.7 million. Public safety at 22%, or $9.4 million, and then water and sewer at 19%, or $8.3 million for fiscal year 2024. Next, looking at the general fund's fund balance. So the ending fund balance, again, you can see the historic average of where that fund has been year over year. This is specifically just for the general fund. It's on a modified accrual basis, so it's more of a short-term view versus the net position. But ending fund balance was just slightly over $11 million. You can see that the fund balance dipped slightly in from 2019 to 2022, but has been steadily increasing. I would note that the city does have a fund balance policy for the general fund. So it was that 17% of the unassigned balance of this fund balance, that's the unassigned would not be less than 17% of the next year's fiscal budget. And so that unassigned amount, as of 2024, would equate to about $3,040,000. And the city was at $3.6 million. So just about $500,000 higher than what the policy was. I'd also note that in July, the fund balance policy was changed so that that unassigned general fund balance isn't less than 25% of next year's current operating expenses. So again, pretty conservative amounts, very typical of what we see with cities. You generally want to have at least 3 to 6 months on hand in that general fund so that you're able to pay bills in the event that something like COVID would ever happen again. Next, looking at the budget versus actual. So you can see for revenues actually came in higher than what was budgeted by about $1.2 million. On the expenditure side, expenditures came in $134,000 less than what was budgeted for. So positive both ways on both the revenues and expenditures for the general fund. Lastly, for the financials, just noting the debt that the city does have. So as of 12/31, you can see the different categories of debt that the city has and what those balances are. On the left-hand side, those are just the principal amounts that are recorded. On the right-hand side, these are actually principal and interest amounts that are due for the next indefinitely until these bonds are paid off. It's just slightly below $10 million annually is what's required to pay on current debt for principal and interest payments on those. And then the last item to just go over, our professional standards require that we go over these items with the board upon completion of the audit. So just bringing to your awareness that there are estimates for the net pension liability and then the other post-employment benefit or OPEB liabilities that are recorded to the financials. During the audit, we didn't become aware of any kind of unusual transactions, nor did we have difficulties or disagreements with management in accounting principles or obtaining information. As part of our audit, we did have one uncorrected misstatement. So this was an item that we came across during the audit during our testing that was not posted and reflected in the financial statements, but it wasn't material, and so that's why it was not posted to the actual financials. Also, as part of our audit, we do require representations from management for them to assert that everything's recorded in accordance with GAAP and that they gave us full access to all the accounting information. And then I would also note that we did issue a separate management letter for some housekeeping items on improvements that the city could make. And we did go over those with the mayor and the finance team and the city administrator at a previous meeting. Lastly, my contact information is included in the agenda, or the slide deck that was included in the agenda. So if you do have any follow-up questions, feel free to email or give me a call. Otherwise, that is all I have. Unless anybody has any questions on the audit, I'm happy to answer those.
Mayor, I have a question, Mandy. when we look at the revenues by type and then talks about grants and contributions, the term contributions, is that mostly referring to federal and state distributions and cost sharing in projects?
Mayor and Commissioners, so that would include federal and state grants.
You know, it says grants and
And
contributions.
contributions. Contributions typically are from, so this next fiscal year, you'll have quite a bit for the Mandan, or the Memorial Highway project, because all that is going to have to get recorded on the city's books, because you're ultimately responsible for maintaining the road once it's built. However, a lot of that's being funded by the DOT and federal grants that they received. I can get back to the specifics, but the bulk of it was federal and state grants. State aid is actually flowing into a different line. And I can't remember. Oh, it's 4%. It's the dark blue amount is actual state aid. That would not be included in that amount.
Thank you.
Mindy, something pretty foundational, but out there, I've run into some people that think that the city commission still is responsible for the park board and school district. But so this is not inclusive of those separate governing bodies, correct?
Correct. So this is just an audit of the city. However, I would say the entities that are included would include the library and the airport, and that's because of the relationship that the city has. And there's specific control and if you're responsible for any kind of financial responsibility that the city might have, those are usually triggers where those are going to get consolidated into the city's audit. The Park District has they have their own separate audit. They have their own separate governing committee. The city does receive their share of the property taxes and passes it through to the Park District, but there's no financial responsibility that the city has to the Park District other than passing their share of the revenue through to the Park District.
And that would be the same for the school district.
Same for the school. Yep, the school has their own separate audit, separate elected board. So as part of all the audits of these governments, we do look at the related entities, and there's specific governmental accounting standards that we have to follow, whether they get brought into this entity or not into this entity. And it has to do with financial control and financial responsibility for those entities.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Any other questions for me? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioners?
I move to approve the results of the 2024 audit as presented.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Rohr, second by Commissioner Heinchan. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioners Heinchan.
Yes.
Braun. Yes. Rohr.
Yes.
Schoberg.
Yes.
Mayor Freilich.
Yes, and I'd like to say thank you to Greg and Justin and Mr. Neubauer for the work they put into this and the audit results. Thank you. We'll move on to item number 2, consider approval of proposed infant at work policy. Amy?
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. The city is seeking tonight your approval for the proposed infant at work policy. And this policy was designed to support employees during early months of parenthood. It proposes a structured and thoughtful approach to allow eligible employees to bring their infants to work under specific conditions and with appropriate oversight. So the idea behind this policy is to have a program in place to support work-life balance during one of the most critical times of a parent's life within the first 6 months after birth, adoption, or foster placement. This initiative, with our broader commitment to making the city of Mandan a family-friendly and supportive employer, is the goal. And also to offer flexibility while still maintaining operational effectiveness. This policy was developed in close collaboration with department leaders across the city, and their input was essential in ensuring the policy would be practical and manageable across different departments. In developing the policy, we also had the benefit of looking at a strong model, as the state of North Dakota does have an infant at work policy already in place for multiple years. So from what we were able to find, it's been well received and publicly highlighted in a positive light. So we were able to use this program as a reference point when we were looking at shaping our own policy. So I've included in the agenda packet the proposed policy draft, the participation request form and the plan, a waiver of liability, and a manager review form for post-program evaluation. And I just wanted to point out some of the key policy highlights. It applies to regular and temporary employment, anyone returning to work after childbirth, adoption, or foster placement. And infants must be under the age of 6 months to participate. And participation is completely voluntary, and it would require a series of approvals. It would go through their first supervisor and then be reviewed by the department director, as well as the city administrator and the HR director. And then the HR director would also provide program oversight and support for both employee and department. We also recognize that not all work environments will be suitable for the program, and we did address that in the policy. Each request will be reviewed individually based on the nature of the employee's duties and the workplace safety and sustainability. And this is to ensure minimal disruption and continued productivity. Employees may also request a short-term telecommuting option as part of their return to work plan, and this would fall under our existing telecommute policy to provide extra flexibility during that time of coming back to work. It also complements the city's current breastfeeding policy, further expanding our support for working parents. And also, after participation ends, the employee supervisor will complete a manager review form to assess the effectiveness of the program. So when it comes to fiscal impact, we do not have any expected impact there. Participating employees would be responsible for providing all necessary equipment for their infant. And the goal would be to enhance employee satisfaction, retention, and engagement, particularly for those new employees that are transitioning back to work. Departments may also see reduced absences within their departments, as this policy helps minimize disruptions. And we do realize that there may be occasional challenges that come up, such as avoiding disruptions and maintaining productivity, but we feel the policy is structured with the approval and the language within it to have those safeguards available if those challenges do come up. We did have this policy reviewed by our city attorney, Amy Oster, and with that, staff recommends approval of the proposed infant at work policy as presented and available to answer any questions.
Thank you, Amy. Any questions for Amy?
Mayor, Amy, does the final determination as to the feasibility and adaptability of this program rest with the department head?
I would say the final decision would rest with the department head as well as the city administrator as a collaborative discussion.
I just want to get the chain of command here who is going to make the call if there are issues.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions?
Oh, Amy, you guys have done a wonderful job putting this whole program together, so thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Mayor and Amy, I would say that I believe this is the norm in a lot of environments. There The only concern I have is the diaper changing stations. Do our facilities have adequate changing tables so it's not in somebody's office and private room? I see it's addressed to be in a private space, but the only concern I would have is if we have appropriate changing tables in all our facilities.
Yes, Mayor, Commissioner Heinshaw, that's a valid concern, and I think as we develop the program, we can look at each department to ensure that there's a designated space. With our breastfeeding policy, we do have a designated space for feeding that is private, separate from a bathroom, so we would definitely look into that to make sure there was a spot as people apply.
Any other questions? Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
Commissioners?
I'll move to approve the infant at work policy as presented.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Schoberg, second by Commissioner Heinshaw. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Commissioners Braun,
Yes.
Rohr,
Yes.
Schoberg,
Yes.
Heinchan,
Yes.
Mayor Freilich.
Yes. Item number 3, consider lead service line inventory task orders. Jarek?
Mayor and Commissioners, good evening. Before you today, we have a couple of task orders from AE2S that would be related to the lead service line inventory as well as the future replacements of those lead service lines around town. I'm going to do my best to try to give a good background to set the stage here. In 2024, the state of North Dakota contracted directly with engineering consultants around the state and paired them up with communities to complete the first phase of lead service line inventories. We were paired up with AE2S, and we completed that initial phase and sent out letters to the community, and we had identified just under 4,000 service lines around the community that were either identified as lead or unidentified on the private and public sides of the curb stop at residences. The state is continuing this effort through a kind of a phase 2 of this lead service line inventory, where they are directly contracting with consultants and pairing them with cities to refine these results. They are starting with smaller communities and moving up. As we get through this process, it's becoming clearer and clearer that Mandan is probably too large to benefit from this direct state assistance again, though we are still obligated to complete lead service line inventories and begin our lead service replacement plan by 2027. So for you today, we have 2 task orders with AE2S that would support lead service line replacement itself and also continue into that phase 2 portion of the lead service line inventory. That phase 2 portion would include additional records review, online customer surveys, public notifications, and also door-to-door surveys. We decided that this was probably the best route to go because there is 66% state funding still available for these efforts, and we wanted to take advantage of that 66% state funding. The city budgeted $100,000 in 2025 and $105,000 in 2026 for lead service line replacement. When we budgeted those numbers, we had intended for that to be physical replacement of the service lines, though we found ourselves in a position where we still need to do inventory work. So the local portion of that, where it had been identified as where special assessments had been identified as the local funding source, it's more appropriate for it to be a utility fund, funded out of the utility fund because of its broader impact on the community. So we had $205,000 budgeted in these 2 years, and the sum total of the two task orders is $220,000. We're expecting 66% loan forgiveness on these initiatives, and that would bring the total local impact to be just under $75,000 for this effort. I can try and answer any questions, and we also have AE2S available to answer any questions, but it's our recommendation to enter into the task orders as presented.
Questions for Jarek?
Jarek, correct me if I'm wrong, but my ancient memory seems to kind of remember that this whole lead pipe thing started on the federal level. Is that correct, or am I wrong?
Mayor Commissioner Schoberg, that is correct. Yes, this is coming down from the top, and that 10-year replacement schedule between 2027 and 2037, I believe, is an EPA mandate.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Jarek? If not, thank you, Jarek. Commissioners, what are your wishes?
I'll move to enter into task orders 11 and 12 with AE2S and authorize the use of city utility funds to pay for those services.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Schoberg, a second by Commissioner Braun. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Commissioners Rohr,
Yes.
Schoberg,
Yes.
Heinchan,
Yes.
Braun. Yes. Mayor Freilich.
Yes. We will now move on to resolutions and ordinances. First item, second and final consideration of ordinance number 1474 to create a new Article 7 to Chapter 2 of the Mandan Code of Ordinances relating to the authorization of annual appropriation bonds. Greg?
Mayor, Commissioners, just to summarize, this ordinance will formally establish the legal framework authorizing the City of Mandan to issue annual appropriation bonds, enter into bank loans, and execute equipment lease agreements for the purchase of machinery and equipment as outlined in the city's long-term financial plan. Staff has not received any comments or any concerns regarding this proposed ordinance, so it is before you for final approval. And I will stand for any questions.
Any questions for Greg? If not, thank you, Greg. Commissioners?
I move to approve the second and final consideration of ordinance number 1474 to create new Article 7 to Chapter 2 of the Mandan Code of Ordinances relating to the authorization of annual appropriation bonds.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Heinchan, a second by Commissioner Rohr. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Commissioners Schoberg,
Yes.
Heinchan,
Yes.
Braun. Yes. Rohr.
Yes.
Mayor Freilich.
Yes, motion passes. Item number 2, second and final consideration of ordinance number 1475 to amend and reenact Section 12-8-1 and 12-8-9 of the Mandan Code of Ordinances relating to cigar lounges.
Mayor Freilich
Mr.
and
Neubauer?
Commissioners, we have not received any public comment regarding this ordinance since the first consideration was held a few weeks ago.
Okay, with that, Commissioners, what are your wishes?
I'll move to approve ordinance number 1475, which amends and reenacts section 12-8-1 and section 12-8-9 of the Mandan Code of Ordinances.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Schoberg, a second by Commissioner Heinchan. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Commissioners Heinchan,
Yes.
Braun. Yes. Rohr.
Yes.
Schoberg.
Yes.
Mayor Freilich.
Yes. Item number 3, introduction and first consideration of ordinance number 1476 relating to traffic and vehicles. Amy?
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I am here to introduce Ordinance 1476, which updates the Mandan Code of Ordinances with recent state law changes relating to traffic and vehicles. Just to briefly touch on those changes, they include: 1, cities are no longer permitted to double the fines for speeding, and that provision has been removed. There are some updates related to temporary registration permits. A court may now grant a motion to amend a charge of driving under suspension to a charge of operating a vehicle without being licensed. Drivers may now exit a roundabout without first signaling their intention to exit. A traffic offense was created relating to the owner of a motor vehicle when their vehicle is involved in a fleeing incident. The permitted light transmittance requirement for vehicle windows changed from at least 50% of light pass-through to 35% for side and rear windows. The fine for careless driving increased to $100. The interstate speed limit increased from 75 miles per hour to 80 miles per hour. And finally, the fine for speeding in a construction zone increased from $80 to $150. I can answer any questions you might have, or Chief Ziegler is here tonight as well.
Any questions for Amy?
Mayor, Amy, on number 3, where the court may grant a motion to amend a charge of driving under suspension to operate in a vehicle without being licensed. That is, without being licensed, the driver's license, that's not the license for the car, correct? There's, just to delineate, there is a difference?
Correct, yep.
Is there still separate offenses, though?
Chief Ziegler would probably have a better idea of that than I do. I don't do a lot of criminal law, but I'll let him answer if he can.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioner Rohr, are you talking about separate between not licensing your vehicle and not having a driver's license?
Yeah, and in fact, there's still a separate charge of driving under suspension and operating a vehicle without having a driver's license, correct?
Correct, that's correct, sir.
These are not consolidated in any way.
No, what they did with this and during legislative session is try to clean up it to where they don't have so many people sitting there with suspended driver's license to give them opportunities to get license back. Plus, it kind of frees up the courts to make decisions instead of it just recurring over and over and over again.
Okay, I know it is a problem, in terms of a number and enforcement, so appreciate the information.
Yes, sir.
Chief? Excuse me, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Item number 6. The permitted light transmittance requirement of vehicle windows changed from at least 50% the light pass-through to 35% at side and rear. So this seems to me to be something that would be difficult. How would this be addressed on a typical stop?
Mr. Mayor and Commissioner Braun, we have light meters or tent meters that we use to determine the light that's being transmitted through. So your side windows, your back windows can be darker now than the front windows.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Amy or Chief Ziegler?
Amy, this is basically standard operating procedure following every legislative assembly, is that correct?
Yes, yeah, every 2 years there's always some updates to be made. So this just updates our code. We largely follow Century Code, and so this just updates our code to match that.
Okay, thank you.
I move to approve the introduction and first consideration of ordinance number 1476 as presented.
Second.
Thank you, Amy. We have a motion by Commissioner Rohr, a second by Commissioner Brown. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Neubauer, could you please take the roll?
Commissioners Braun.
Yes.
Rohr.
Yes.
Schoberg.
Yes.
Heinchan.
Yes.
Mayor Freilich.
Yes. Motion passes. Item number 4, consider a resolution authorizing an SRF loan application for lead service replacement projects. Jarek.
Mayor and Commissioners, good evening. This is related somewhat to our K3 item. This is a requirement from the NDDEQ, or Department of Environmental Quality. They require a resolution authorizing staff to apply for and furnish information for SRF loan applications. This particular SRF loan application is for the lead service line replacement inventory work that we are anticipating to occur in the next coming year, as well as the physical replacement of lead service lines over the next 10 years. So we worked with AE2S to come up with, or to put together an estimate for what our 10-year replacement schedule looks like, and we kind of designed our proposed loan application around that number. The estimated amount was just under $4.5 million. This cap is typically flexible, and we're not obligated to spend $4.5 million. It's just kind of as a starting point to begin these efforts. The primary goal of the SRF loan right now would be to take advantage of that 66% loan forgiveness for the engineering service agreements that we just discussed. We're recommending approval of the resolution, but I can try and answer any questions if you have any.
JERIC SRF stands for what again?
State Revolving Fund, I believe. Yes.
Thanks.
Any other questions for Jarek? If none, thank you, Jarek. Commissioners, what's your wish?
I move to approve the resolution as presented.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Heinchan, second by Commissioner Schoberg. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Commissioners Rohr,
Yes.
Schoberg,
Yes.
Heinchan,
Yes.
Braun.
Yes.
Mayor Freilich.
Yes. There is no other business. Future meeting dates for the Board of City Commission, September 16th, 2025 at 5:30. And a note, September 16th will be the preliminary budget public hearing, and that is at 6 p.m. October 7th, 2025 at 5:30. And October 21st, 2025 at 5:30. With that, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Did I forget something? Meeting's adjourned.